Alright, this is going to be my Bujin deck profile. Uh, I've been quite interested in Bujin since they came out. I was abroad in Asia at the time that the sneak peek came out, and I told my friend Connor Green to get 3 Yamato, because I told him they'd be 10 each and they'd go up, and that was what happened. But, you know, he's kept the deck ever since, bought everything for the deck, and I go in and out of using it, he goes in and out of using it. I do like it, and I've revisited it recently, and I realized that a lot of people are not building it the way I think they should be. So this is going to be my build. It's going to be different to probably any build that you've seen, but not too starkly different, just quite different. And I'll explain things as best as I can, but really, just play it, and it'll make sense. So 3 Yamato, 2 Mikazuchi, 2 Hirame, and 1 Arasuda. So yeah, Arasuda is to combo off with Hirame and things like that. I mean, that's the standard. The whole Bujinji lineup is pretty standard. So then 3 Crane, 2 Turtle, 2 Hare, and the 1 Quillin. Quillin's pretty cool, just to pop stuff. It comes in a little bit. So that's it, 16. I don't play Honest, because there's really no point. I mean, you don't like Crane isn't even that good, let alone Honest. 3 Upstart, 3 Duality, and 3 Tenki to maximize your chances of getting into that early game Yamato, or just whatever you want. 3 Kaiser. I mean, this is a proxy for the other Kaiser because Will has it. 3 Kaiser. I don't play any traps. That is the big plot reveal. I don't play any traps. So Kaiser's very good, just at locking things down. I mean, yeah, Yamato Kaiser is still difficult to deal with, so that's great. Then 3 Lance, which makes complete sense. Then 3 Bujin Carnation, and 2 Soul Charge. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a bit. 3 Bujin Carnation, 2 Soul Charge. Keep that in mind. Then Dark Hole, Burial, Book of Moon, and Mind Control, because everything is level 4s, more or less. So I think that people misunderstand what this deck is. Bujin, obviously, for a long time it has been Protect the Yamato, and Protect the Yamato was viable for a while. It was a legitimate strategy. However, the deck is no longer based around protecting the Yamato, and protecting the Yamato is a very weak strategy at the moment. What would you do? Like, Yamato plus a trap, the positive externalities that you gain from the trap do not outweigh the fact that you are changing the deck. Basically, the deck isn't a boss monster deck. The deck is what I would call a high pressure deck. Will called it a tempo deck after he found out how it actually is meant to run, in that you summon the Yamato, you send Hare or Turtle, but probably Hare. Then at that point you have Yamato and Hare. That's not enough to win you the game, so you having 2 or 3 sets to back that up would not win you the game. But what Yamato plus Hare does do is it forces the opponent to deal with it, so they have to commit probably 2 cards in order to deal with it. And then at that point in which they've dealt with it, you'll have something else. You'll have a Mikazuchi to drop, or you'll summon a Susanoo or something. And then they have to deal with that. And then at the point that they deal with that, you'll have a Bujin Carnation or a Soul Charge. And the idea is you just keep pressuring them with things to deal with, and eventually they can't deal with it. And then, at that point, when the game state is simplified, that's when having a Yamato with Hare and Turtle Engrave will really shine, or more likely a Susanoo with Hare and Turtle Engrave. That's when that will really shine, when the game state is simplified. So that is what you do. I mean, you summon Yamato, you send. If they don't deal with it next turn, you get the other one Engrave. You obviously want Turtle and Hare Engrave as quickly as possible alongside Yamato. At that point, the Yamato is difficult to deal with. If they don't deal with the Yamato, they will lose. Right? You just keep attacking them and they'll lose. For most decks. And just in general, they will feel pressured by the Yamato. They don't want you to keep having turns and being able to send things, because you can have 4 turns. I mean, you would send hare, turtle, turtle, quillen, or something like that, in that order. At that point, the Yamato isn't really doing anything anymore. But they don't want you to do that, because in 4 turns of having Yamato, you'll have other things as well. So they'll try and deal with the Yamato. In doing so, they'll commit. Once they've committed, you have Hirume, which is the free Cyber Dragon. You can probably drop Mikazuchi. And Mikazuchi also adds pressure. Mikazuchi is great in that it adds pressure when the Yamato dies, but it also adds pressure when the Yamato is still alive, because it lets you search the Buji Carnation. So what happens quite often is you summon Yamato, send. They can't deal with it. You summon Mikazuchi, attack. End phase, send the turtle, search the Bujin Carnation. Like, you see, it's adding pressure to them. It's forcing them to deal with these things, and then they deal with these things, because if they don't deal with these things, they lose, but odds are they do deal with these things, and then if they deal with these things, you have other things. You have, essentially, 5 Soul Charge. But Bujin Carnation is a better Soul Charge, really. People are like, why'd you play Soul Charge? Why do you play Soul Charge? Because if they kill your stuff, then you can bring it back for free. Why wouldn't you play it? Either they don't kill the Yamato, in which case they haven't killed the Yamato, or they do, in which case you want to bring it back, or you commit a bunch of things and they kill it, in which case you can bring it back, or you summon a bunch of things and they don't kill it, in which case you win. And the cool thing about this deck is that you don't take life point damage a lot, because generally the early game is in your favor. That is how the deck should be played, in my opinion. I wouldn't base it around Protect the Yamato, because Protect the Yamato, as an entire deck strategy, isn't that strong. Yamato isn't that difficult to deal with. As I said, it will take like 2 cards generally. Take 2 cards to deal with the Yamato. So it isn't that bad. Like, you shouldn't base your whole deck around that. Even if you assume your traps will trade with a card, that won't be to a large extent the case for the entire time. And what back row would you play? I mean, Fiendish Chain is good, granted, but it doesn't actually remove anything. So it's difficult to explain. I mean, Fiendish is good. It's a very good card at the moment. But what, just 3 Fiendish Chain, the Warning the Bottomless, the TT Compulse, that's 7 in space of what, the 2 Soul Charge, a Bujin Carnation, etc. But then you're going against what the deck is trying to do. It isn't a defensive deck. It isn't summon Yamato, protect the Yamato. That's not how the deck should be played. It should be played as, you summon the Yamato, send, they have to deal with it, then you have something else that they have to deal with. Then at that point they've committed 2 to 3 cards at least. Then you drop a Bujin Carnation and get your things. Then they have to deal with that, etc. You just keep snowballing until you win. So that's how, that's how I think the deck should be played. I've had much more success with the deck built like this. I've played it as Protect the Yamato in recent times, and it doesn't work as well as this sort of strategy. This sort of strategy is really good in an environment like this. The best thing about it is that it works just as effectively against everything. So against things like dragons and stuff like that, I mean, you can still just do Yamato and Kaiser Colosseum against decks like that, and that's still really strong. Like Dragons, Light Swan Silver and stuff like that. Mermail even, Yamato Kaiser is pretty strong. But against the slower decks, the Gigias and the Hats, being able to just chuck things into their back row, because your monsters, this is like a wind-up theory, but it's like your monsters will trade with their back row. So your monsters do trade with their back row, and then you just drop a Soul Charge or a Bujin Carnation and get rid of the stuff and massively simplify the game state. The fact that you're allowed to do that is very beneficial, so it works both ways very well in your favor. That's why I really like the deck, to be honest. I've been having a lot of fun with this. Me and Will never used to have problems against Bujin. We'd smack up Bujin every day, every second in with our hat build. But we played yesterday, and I was legit like I kept winning. I kept winning against everything. It was very good. So I'm very pleased with this deck and how it's built. In terms of the individual choices, 3 Yamato is obvious. 2 Mika and 2 Hirame. You know, you could run more, but you don't really need to run more. The 1 Arasuda is good. The Bujin ratios, the relic ratio, sorry, are completely fine. The 3rd duality isn't necessarily needed, but it's good. You wanna filter your hand earlier on in the game, and it very much helps with that. 3 Kaiser, because it is your primary form of floodgate and your means of defense, considering that you don't play any traps. 3 Lance, obviously, like it is very good this format. 3 Bujin Carnation and 2 Soul Charge, yep, it's very good. I don't know why you'd run any less than 3 Bujin Carnation in a build like this. Obviously you'd run 3 Bujin Carnation, it's incredible. And Soul Charge, I think 2 is the right number for Soul Charge. You could run the 3rd, but I don't know why I'd drop. I'd probably end up dropping a duality or something. Foolish, I see regular Bujin players not running Foolish. Run Foolish, it's very good. Something that I would like to try in the main is a Burial from a Different Dimension, because late game I often find that I end up having like Quillin, 2 Turtle, 2 Hair Banished or something like that, and I would just want to reset everything. But there's nothing to drop besides like the 3rd duality, and I wouldn't drop the 3rd duality for a Burial. I mean, like maybe the Mind Control, but the Mind Control is so good against any rank 4 deck. I mean, I guess I could side the Mind Control and then main the Burial, but I don't know. I like the Mind Control in the main. It goes in. So yeah, and the reason why I don't main Decree is because it's not that good against either scenario where you want it to be good. So either you're going to be playing trap heavy decks, like Gigi and Hat, or you're going to be playing against minimal trap decks. And by minimal trap decks, I mean no trap decks, generally. So things like Sylvans, Light Swans. I mean, Light Swans play Needlebug Nest, which isn't really a trap. And Dragon Rulers, if you're playing Dragon Rulers, don't play any traps. Trust me, it's better when you don't play any traps, I think. But they'll play minimal traps. They'll play their own Decree. So either you're going to be playing against decks with no traps, like Sylvans, where Decree is just completely dead, or decks that themselves play Decree, therefore your Decree will also be completely dead. Or you'll be playing against decks with a lot of traps. But the thing with decks that play a lot of traps is that they main wiretap. So the idea is that you don't want to make that wiretap live. So they will have however many cards they have made to deal with your back row, with your traps, and those traps don't exist. So Sylvans will play 3 Rose Archer, 2 Lance, three Lance, I guess. Gigi will play 3 Wiretap, 2 7 tools or something like that to deal with traps, and they are all useless. All of those cards are completely dead against this deck, so you're giving them dead cards game 1, as opposed to Decree, where even though if it resolves, it's a complete blowout, it will completely win you the game, it can also make those cards live, or just be completely useless. So Decree goes in the side. Yeah, Bujin deck profile. I have a lot of love for this deck now. I think I've done a good job with it. It's a very good build, and the way it plays out is very interesting. So try it out, see how it goes. If it is different for you, then either you'll love it or you won't, but you should, because it's great. And I'll see you around.